Once you do that process and bake all that clarity of the characteristics you must become and the categories of expertise you must become to make those impacts, the brand has everything the brand says and does aligns with the impacts. And you are communicating with such clarity and consistency, it's palpable. People feel the clarity.
Hey everybody, Chris G here again, a Titan's Tale. And today we're actually going to talk to somebody a whole lot closer to Missouri. Last week we talked to a gentleman in John, actually in Australia, but now we're a little closer to home, but not real close to home in Missouri. I got John Kozak. He's actually from California. John, I've been actually very fortunate here. I've been talking with John before we start recording. So I got a little heads up on what you're about to hear today, but you're going to hear some great tales from a great Titan. So please help me welcome Rich Kozak.
Hey, Chris G, it's good to be here. And my friends do call me Rich. You can call me John, but my friends call me Rich, and that's good. And the name of my business is Rich Brands, because it's the brands is what I've been doing for 48 years. But frankly, Chris, it's not about branding. The work that we do now with individuals, it's about every one of us made by the same God gets a chance to make the most significant impacts we can with the gifts we've been given on the world we touch. And one of the ways you do that, one of the processes you do that, if you're in business or you're reaching out and you're promoting, is through what's called branding, but most people don't know what it really is. And it's a process, it's steps. So I taught it for years to big companies, and I teach it now and guide individuals who want to make impacts on other people's lives. So thank you for having me. There's some very cool things that you and I together get to share with your listeners today.
Awesome. Now we're going to get into those steps here a little bit. I've got my notes here, but let's go back 48 years. What how did you decide to get into this, or did you actually decide it just kind of happened to you?
Well, you know how that works. You have to pick a major in college, and came out of high school not being able to answer the question, what do you want to be? I can answer, what do you want to do? Because my answer would be everything. I want to travel the world. I want to bite off as much of life and chew it as I can, and live outside the country and experience different cultures and different languages and different foods, different ways of life. And, but what do you want to be? I had no idea. I would change the subject. The irony is that, and I'll explain how in like 2 sentences, but the irony is I became a global branding consultant, trained to tell companies, in some cases, some very big ones, what they should be doing in order to be successful at their business strategy, or what in some cases they must do in terms of shaping the perception of what they stand for and who they are. For me that didn't know what I wanted to do, for me to be telling companies what they must do, that's ironic. Okay. The irony of that has never escaped me. So here's how it happened. I picked marketing as my major because I had created businesses when I was a kid. And when I looked at the different majors, business was obvious, and marketing within business seemed like the one that fit best, but I really didn't. I'd never studied marketing. I couldn't write a paper on marketing. When I chose it, I just chose it because it sounded like that's what it was. And with that, it's like hard to believe that a couple of decades later, I was elected to the board of directors of the American Marketing Association International. So that's another one like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. But, got the degree, studied international business. And then after I literally dropped out of college for a few years to play in a rock band that traveled up and down the East Coast. And I ran the business. I, did all the accounting. I ran all the cash flow.
Did the marketing?
No, not really. It was more, It was more promotion, but that's part of marketing. It's part of the marketing.
Sure.
But we had our own original material. We recorded our own album. It was very interesting. And then I came back to school, got the degree in marketing international business. And then I turned Fortune 50 And in a Fortune 50 experience for 7 years, it was industrial sales in the field, calling on all different kinds of companies. I was in Western Michigan, which allowed me to call on all kinds of different companies. But my boss had run the international division for 12 years in Switzerland. And so he was a phenomenal mentor. That was a blessing. And then I got transferred to the West Coast, working in a factory for a marketing manager and being a product manager and dealing with costing and negotiate. I was supposed to move to the East Coast and be a specialty salesperson. And I really chose not to do that. I had become the president of the American Marketing Association in Southern California. And it was the 50th anniversary year. And so I stayed here and met everybody who is anybody in Southern California, and worked for a research boutique that called on research managers. So my career has been a pretty comprehensive experience in almost every area of marketing. And I say almost because there are some niche areas that I didn't really get experience in, but I ran a high-tech ad agency. So we did media analysis. We had to review media plans. And, between the research, I moderated focus groups, brought in research people to make sure that if we were doing questionnaires that they were solid, and, and called on our largest clients and ran new business all over the world. It was a hoot. And so here, this guy who didn't know what he wanted to do, by one step at a time. And then his good friend says, "Hey, I need an executive vice president. Why don't you come on over to my agency?" And I was there for almost 20 years. A lot of freedom, a lot of very broad thinking people, and the ability to learn how to focus on a client's target audiences and help them be successful in attracting them and positioning them with them. So, and then being trained by this partnership that we were members of worldwide and certified in this process of assessing a brand from its roots and then taking it to its next level and even moving it from country to country. I was addicted, Chris. I loved it. And I loved presenting. I loved leaning across the table to a potential client saying, "You know what your customers are saying, right?" or did, we went through all the media the last 3 years. Have you seen a summary of how you're talked about in the trade press? It's like having them lean forward and go like, "Well, what?"
Whoa.
Right? Yeah. And I love doing that. And I kind of, we do it today with individuals, but really the difference is when you ask a person, and now some of my clients own companies, but they own them, they're the champion of the brand, right? They see what they saw, they see what the way they can impact people's lives or an industry or whatever their target is. But when you ask someone to paint a picture of the impacts they clearly see making in their mind's eye on those types of people or whomever that they really want to impact, Chris, I believe God put the desire for impacts in our hearts, along with why we're here. And so I used to think this was my skill, and I am so over it. It is a gift. I've watched it sometimes I've been doing the individuals for 8.5 years now, going on 9 years. And about 3 years into it, I would have people come over to my house, which is on the side of a hill. I call it the Brand Ranch, and we have gardens here, and I cook. And I would say, "If you drive, don't make me drive," because it's Los Angeles. There's a lot of driving going on. I said, "If you don't make me drive, I will cook you a beautiful meal." And they were like, "Oh, good. Let's meet at your house." Great. So they'd come over here. But when you ask someone to tell you what they clearly see, and they do, it's like, I believe God put that in there. And so I don't, early on, within 3 years, people would be here having, a meal with me. and I would be listening to them, and we would start brainstorming about what's possible for their brand, their desired brand, the brand they will become. And things would come out of my mouth, but it didn't feel like they were coming from me. It felt
Mhm.
like they were coming through me, kind of like from somewhere else. And I remember almost putting my hand up to my face, going like, "Did I
Hmm.
say that?" Anyway, so it became clear I was in my groove, but I was doing exactly what I was made to do. I'm blessed. I feel I'm blessed. That wasn't bragging. I feel like one of the most blessed people on the planet, because all of this work I've done, including the periods after I resigned my addictive career when I turned 50 and when I picked branding back up again, there was a big chunk of time where I was highly invested in my own real estate business until a lot happened the wrong way. And at the same time, people were asking me to help them with their brands. And so it's ended up working with a few individuals and realizing using this process literally helps them get to their impacts faster. And I felt so right doing it. I realized that's what I was supposed to do. So it's 8.5 years now. And I work a lot of hours, but it does not feel like work. We
So,
always have challenges, and the
mhm.
people that find me and come to me, they have challenges. We need better ways to say what we do. We don't know how to position ourselves to get paid what we're worth. We don't get the right people coming to our website. All those things that are so common. But by defining and languaging your brand with such clarity, you attract them, and you become a magnet instead of them falling flat, instead of your brand falling flat. But people don't know how to do that. They don't know it's a process, and I've been teaching it 48 years. So if you go back 48 years, I had no idea I was going to do this. It wasn't a part of a master plan. It wasn't part of my master plan.
Sure.
Sorry, I think it was part of a master
Well,
plan,
there
but it
was a
wasn't my
master
master
plan,
plan.
but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. As it says in the book I read every morning, God makes, or man makes plans, and God, makes it happen however it's going to happen. You know, rough
Well, during
translation.
your career,
Yeah.
at some point, you decided to take a radical sabbatical. Is that right?
Oh, I did. Yes.
You want to share a little bit about that?
I was doing all-nighters. I had partners in 21 countries. I was addicted. I mean, I loved it. I would come home late from the agency. It was a long drive across town. This is Los Angeles. And it was easier to get home if you'd leave at 10 than if you left at 5, because you'd be on the road for 2.5 hours. Who wants to be on the road for 2.5? So you leave at 10, you can get home in 40 minutes, but you're at 10. That
Yeah,
doesn't leave
tell
much life.
Ted.
And
Right.
sometimes it's 12, and sometimes it's 1. And so I would get home late, wake my kids up. We'd say quick prayers, dear God, thank you for teaching us that we're only here for 2 reasons: to share love and praise God, and everything else is man made. Good night, boys. Right. And go back to bed. And then email my European partners, get a few hours of sleep, and then get up the next morning, do it again. It's like you wear the "I don't need sleep" like a badge of whatever, of honor, and it's not. It's a badge of stupidity. But you don't realize that health is so critical, and sleep is one of the
Major,
four legs
major,
of a
major part of
four-legged
that.
stool. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was hurting myself physically, was getting out of shape, gaining weight. I felt like I was gonna headed to a heart attack, and I was 50 years old. And I was 50 years old, so I'm a man, and I'm turning 50, and there are already things going through your life like, whoa, 50. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what have I done? Why am I here? And so I changed my prayer, and for 9 months, I prayed, Lord, I'm resigning this addictive career to reshape my life. Show me what you want me to do. I'm ready. Now, I didn't have any lightning strikes or, major downloads, but I asked for it, and I resigned that job. I still did some other projects with freelance, as a freelance, guy with clients, but pretty much got away from branding and said, I don't do branding anymore. I immediately switched to do real estate. I always wanted to do real estate for my own account. So we had somebody in the family, and we put together a plan to buy really nice lots out in near a state park and build really beautiful homes with great views and put an investor in each one so that we all made money. And he'd built 350 homes before, so I hadn't built a home, but he had. So like we had this thing going, and it was rocking, and I was buying homes and turning them into lease option houses, and
Hmm.
all this stuff was just cranking from 2004 to 2008. And then all of a sudden,
Bam.
well, 2008, technically the banks just quit lending, and we were depending on construction loans. We owned the land, everything was right, but they weren't giving construction loans, and we were dead in the water. And had to give the money back to, you had to hand the land back to it was messy. It was messy. And had people who had told me I was their angel, and now we're giving me the finger, and, we wouldn't buy this house. It's like, okay. It was torturous. And so it literally went from having a net worth of, I think it was just over 8 million. Within a year it was -1. I was like, whoa. Yeah. And debt. And it's like, jeepers. So from a Titan's tail standpoint, I have 2 sons. At that time, they were in Laos. So what was that in 2003? So they were in their 20s. And here their father had just not bankrupted. We didn't go that way, but pretty much destroyed a financial cushion that years as an agency executive had built. The word adversity comes to mind. And it's like, yeah, it was financial adversity. Oh, wait, if you go back 48 years, I was also married 48 years ago, and I'm still married to that same beautiful woman. 48 years and 52 Valentine's days we've been together. Okay.
Congratulations. That's right.
Thank you. Praise God. And so she was here through this whole thing and was gracious. And when I said, I don't want you, we would share financial responsibilities. And I said, I don't want you looking at this at all. Just keep going to work, please. I'll take care of this. It's the IRS got it. I mean, it's the, but it's just a process. Thing is, I'd studied the process. She had no idea what the process was. So it would have been very, very painful for her. And so I just said, take your eyes off it. Just do your thing. I will, manage. So within a certain number of years, not only did the branding business bring me back to solvents, to having an ongoing business that was providing income, but we took care of the problems of the past, and the adversity was over. But I had a choice. I could have wallowed in it and sent the message that, adversity has destroyed me and I'm just broken. But I chose to use my own example to show my sons that adversity is not, it's not to break us. It's to strengthen us. And it's the way we respond to adversity that determines our character. So I've been blessed. And now for work to be love, that alone is a gift of a lifetime. But all these other gifts, I didn't even mention that I'd resigned from the agency in August. In January, Denise and I were out of town in Florida, actually, and we're in California here, but we were in Florida at an event. And there was a fire at our house in the middle of the night. It was built in 62, had aluminum wires, and it started in the garage. And it was handled quickly and well, but we were out of the house for a year and a half. And right in the middle of like no job, no house, one of those blessings. How many people do you know who get a fresh start where everything you've gathered for 30 some years, now you either give away, throw away, replace as new because it was a fire claim, or sell, and you only bring back into your new life what you want? to continue on with. Clean slate. Who gets that? So there's another humongous blessing. Now, many people, the fire would have been devastating to them, and they'd be crushed. It was a blessing. I mean, it turned, in many ways, it was a blessing. There were some real challenges.
And we said that today, and you might not have felt that way back when it happened, but
you have
the mindset to believe it.
Adversity, the way we respond to it determines what we get out of it. And
absolutely.
And now, I mean, with 48 years and the amount of energy I have, and granted, I work a lot on longevity. I think I mentioned to you, like, I have a routine now. I hired a beast mode coach before I hit my last big birthday to make sure I was in the best shape I'd ever been in my life before my birth. I didn't really hit that because I've been in a lot better shape. I used to like carry ladders and paint houses, and I wanted that body back. I didn't really get there, but I'm still working on it. But by the last big birthday, and he pointed out that I was up until then defaulting working on my health until after the business was done. Like, so if I were in workaholic mind, it looks like I didn't give a rat's about my health. And that's the way it looked. And that's the way it was. And he said, look, you're going to have to change that. And the only thing I can think of is you need to get up at about 5 a.m, which means you need to go to bed about 9. And I'm thinking, yeah, that'll happen. Yeah, this guy, anyway, but you need to go to bed about 9, get up at 5. If you're going to read the Bible, great. If you're going to, I want you to drink water with lemon juice in it and turn your body alkaline. Let's go. Do some workout. They will get more benefit out of it. Get in that infrared sauna you have out there for a while. Walk with your wife. Get that all done and start your business day at 8 o'clock. And and I did.
Beast mode. There you go. Yeah.
And that's what I do. And that's what I did this morning. And so I want what I do that touches people's lives, and then they touch others' lives. So it's a ripple effect here. It's a blessing. I want other people to be able to step into what brings them joy because they're in their zone, because they're doing what they're made to do for more decades. If there are millions of us that are doing that, the world we make is a way better world for ourselves and for a lot of other people. And I get to be a part of that. That this thing you see above me, impact-driven publishing. I publish people's books. Sometimes I help them write them. I certainly help them conceive them as a stake in the ground that moves a brand forward. The last 20 people that have gone through my Brand Accelerator Mastery all have at least 2, if not 3, book titles that move their brand forward. Often it's from what they're really known for to a bridge that has more to do with life to their calling,
to a bigger
of why they're really here. Right. Their umbrella brand. Because we talk a lot about umbrella brand. Like, if you're like the best podcaster in the world, but really you were here to help young children be, find their strengths.
Right.
Podcasting would be a spoke in your umbrella, but it wouldn't be your umbrella. And here we get to define the umbrella. Well, it is such cool work.
I want to take you back. So 2008, things happen. And you're at church. Now, I heard this story a little bit before, so I'm bringing it up for my listeners here. So you're in church and people approach you, right? Mm-hmm. About helping them. And how'd that all go down?
The first woman who came to me said, I would like you to help me with my individual brand. I said, I don't do that anymore. And she literally looked me in the eye and she goes, that's not true. You sit down with all of us and you talk about our businesses, and everybody around our table uses your language. You're brilliant and you're really good at this. And I want your help and I want to pay you. Okay. So I was like, and there was at a time that I could have used some extra money. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take the process that we use with big companies, and I'll create a process that works for an individual so that the process is exactly the same, but all of the bells and whistles and stuff that required with a public company or media analysis is not relevant here. And it'll be like $5,000 worth of work. I'll charge you $750. How's that? She goes, great. 1 month
Where
later,
do I sign up?
1 month later, a woman
Yeah.
from a different network, a regional chamber, says the same thing to me. I really need your help. I'm like, well, I love you. How can I help? I'd already been through self-development stuff. So I love you came out. You got to watch out who you say that to. But I mean, I love you. How can I help you? And she goes, well, I've been a independent HR. I've been an HR consultant on somebody else's umbrella for years, but I want to break out on my own. I need to build a brand. Can you help me with that? I'm like, well, I have this process, and it's about $5,000, and I'll charge you only, $1,500. She goes, great. 1 month later, a woman whom I deeply admire, I admire even more now than I did then because I know her and she trained me in neurolinguistics programming. She's a master. And she had written a book, and Les Brown had done the forward. It was like, the lady was amazing. And she said, I have a client. She was a business coach. Said, I have a client. I think you are the best branding guy for her. So she hands me her client. After I did those three, because it started like in November, I was finished with doing them in February, March. I'm sitting in the choir loft, singing in the choir.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was listening to a message, and I get this aha moment that what I'm doing with these individuals, having them reach into hey, heart, whom do I clearly see impacting? And I really want to impact them with this work I do. And they paint a picture of that person using their heart. And then we list the impacts that they clearly see having on that person. And then, hey, heart, give me another one. Using that process, I realize they're pulling impacts that they have inside. Well, how'd they get in there? And I realize, I believe God puts the desire for impacts in us. What we do with it is up to us. Sometimes we just don't pay attention and keep doing what we're doing, or stay on the hamster wheel, or we're too stuck to change or whatever. But when we step forward and actually take steps to make those impacts, all of a sudden I saw this work not as my work, but as God's work. And boy, did that change my attitude.
Well, you went from
frankly, that was night and day. I literally ran up to the minister at the end of the service and said, we need to talk in your office right now. And he thought somebody was dying or something. But it's like, oh my God, I just got this download. Yeah.
You went from rock and roll to choir boy and got nudged to continue on what you're
Still
doing.
singing.
Still singing. And so 8 years, I guess 9, 10 years later now?
Let's see. It wasn't really rock and roll. It was more like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Okay.
On the soft rock side, a lot of contrapuntal guitar and Eagles. And I play a violin, so it was electrified. So I was doing electric violin on the rock side, but it was more country rock than the rock and roll. But anyway, yeah, and yeah. But yeah, I'm on the road with a rock band, and then I'm in this C-suite calling on on all the VPs that report to a $14 billion public company's CEO, and interviewing their top 150 customers, like the director of FEMA. Oh, Rich, I really want to talk to you about this company, but you know what? I just got a call from the White House. From there, from doing that to talking with somebody. A woman is referred to me. She is an attorney from Washington, D.C., but she's moved out here, left her firm in D.C., moved out here, and she's not working right now, but she has ideas of what she wants to do, and she wants to help shape the diversity of law firms so that they are more capable of handling an increasingly diverse clientele. And so she and I start working on a desired brand, building the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion for the next generation of corporate leaders. What am I doing in that room? I'm being a catalyst. I'm using a process that I really know, and I'm listening to her heart because she's the one. It's her gift. It's her vision. She just doesn't have the clarity down on paper to explain so that people go like, oh my God, I love that. The true power of natural diversity. Oh, yeah. Global cultural competence. I want that. Well, what is that? Yeah. It's like, how did I get in that room? Hey, Chris, I don't care. Point is, I was there. And I'm there for every one of these. I've got 4 on my, after you and I are done today. And
Yeah.
we had a meeting with an attorney here. I made breakfast after the sauna and the thing. Our attorney came to we've updated our family trust. Talk about getting things done. Holy mackerel. I put that off for as long as I could. But yeah, that one, I said, excuse me, but I'm got to be on camera with Chris Gilman. And so, but I have like 4 clients after this for about an hour and a half each, literally at some step, one of the steps of the 7 steps of impact-driven branding, where they ensure that their brand has all 4 things that a brand must have so it doesn't fall flat and bounce off people. Oh yeah, that's nice. And it's just a process, and to watch it come alive and to empower these people who every one of them, Chris, is a world changer. And get this, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a world changer. You might not be giving yourself credit for it, but darn it, you're made by the same God we all are. So you are here for a reason. You get to change the world you touch. So today is the day to define the brand you will become. Don't forget that. Write that down. Today is the day to define the brand you will become. I don't care how old you are, 29, 89. I've got clients that span the gamut. And it's all about you choose. You choose to respond to adversity. You choose to step into your calling. You choose.
I got a couple other questions before we get more another. You mentioned language of the heart. Is that tied back to the language of the brand? Is that what I see in your notes here? My notes here. Is it the same thing? Or
When
you turn it into the
when the
language of
branding
the brand,
process is done right in
right?
steps, because people are misled about branding because of the way the word is used and the way
Mhm.
marketing services are sold. Well, this will help your branding. They have no idea what they're talking about. They think they do, but they don't. They're not branding experts. They sell marketing services. Okay. Most people, if they had to take a multiple choice test, or definitely an essay test, would fail when it came to, what is branding? And it is a step-by-step iterative process. Certain things must be done. And if they're not done, you leave a hole. There's no clarity. You create one of the 6 bad consequences: confusion, misinformation. You don't get credit for what makes you outstanding. Competitors get ahead of you, waste a lot of money on marketing, and you kiss off time. It's like you're going to have all 6 unless you clearly define and language a brand first. The heart thing comes in the way the process begins. When the process begins by an individual who represents the brand, maybe it's a company, but they represent and they see its vision, or that's what they do. It's an individual, it's a solopreneur, it's an expert, an author, whatever, coach. They see in their heart, close their eyes, in their mind's eye, they clearly see a type of person they know they can impact with their work, and they really want to. And we describe that, and we talk about the levels of impacts. What's the first level? What's the highest level that your work could impact them? Would they become a world changer too? Like, literally, we write the levels, and then you ask them, have your heart give you another one. When you start there, ask your heart. Don't ask your head. Because, if you and I did this, we go like, I can do this for postmen. Yeah, right. Okay. Hey, I love petting giraffes. Certain things have nothing to do with the matter at hand. Okay. And,
Right.
and people go crazy, they're like, but if you ask your heart, And if they're impact driven, they'll know, their heart will give them one. Oh, it's that single mom with a special needs child. She's in her 40s and she's a single mom, and she is afraid of what might happen to her child when something happens to her. That's the one I can really impact her life. Oh, it's somebody that's lost their faith. Oh, it's somebody that is a young person who's challenged with choosing a career. Oh, it's a couple that's about to retire. Oh, whomever that is. For Edith Gondwe from Africa, who did diversity, equity, inclusion, it was an entire industry, was types of companies that she knew she could make an impact on, and she still is. She's a leader today. And so that's the heart connect. It's the beginning. If the beginning of the process is about the impacts you clearly see making on specific types of people, it is heart based, and the process is impact driven. And here's why. Once you write down those impacts, the next step, and we just did this with a new client last weekend, and she and I have been following up. Matter of fact, I meet again with her today. We have this list where people that were there with us, she read the description of a person that she knows she can impact. It was a woman of a certain age, and the impacts that she clearly sees having on that woman. And for each time she read an impact, we took a moment to write what characteristic, adjective like patient or technologically centered or, empathetically listening. What characteristic must the brand become and get credit for to make that impact on that person? We came up with like 35 because of the list of impacts, and there's a lot of duplication of stuff, but that's language. And we're now going through, and she's saying, that's a good one for me. I really believe on that one. And it's not just a word, you have to say in what ways. So, well, I believe it must be graciously accepting in the following 3 ways. They must graciously accept the person's past, graciously accept the amount of time it takes for them to finally graciously. They literally explain the ways in which they see the brand must be that in order to make its impact. Oh, it's impact driven. Yeah. And the next step is, what category of expertise must the brand get known for first in order to make its impacts? All the work is in order to make its impacts. Now, here some people that are, discerning and thinking and are process centered listen to this and might say, oh, wait a minute now. Isn't there like one, no, there could be several types of people, and they could be very different. There's no requirement that is a coaching requirement. You have to have they use terms like micro niche or avatar or stuff like. We don't use that language because it's not realistic. What's realistic is there's a lot of people you envision impacting, and they're very different. They have different languages, different ages, different life situations, different pains. And so we ask them for a few, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 3 for me. I have a client who's 13 because she's a financial advisor, but most people have like 3 or 4. Once you do that process and bake all that clarity of the impact, the characteristics you must become, and the categories of expertise you must become to make those impacts, the brand has everything the brand says and does aligns with the impacts. And you are communicating with such clarity and consistency, it's palpable. People feel the clarity. I didn't play the 1-minute video that brings me on for the Clarity Summit, but it's a 1 minute. Maybe we can do it after we go offline. But I start by saying the first thing is clarity is powerful, and clarity is the missing piece. It's like, let me tell you, I have people that have been doing stuff for 20 years, and they say, I just need more clarity. And this process, because of the way branding done right works, bakes clarity into it as a foundation. It is so cool, Chris. And it's not just cool, it's authentic to the person. It gives the brand champion, access to their own authenticity. It's remarkable. And none of the language is fake. It's like, because you know why? Remember I said I'm going to get on again with this lady this afternoon. Here's the process. All this stuff is in blue that other people said. And I say, well, tell me what you think about that. And she goes, well, I like that characteristic. So we turn it black and then we read the aspect. In what ways? I wouldn't say it that way. Well, how would you say it? And she says that how she would say it. I'd say, now this word's not clear. I don't think that's the right verb. She'd go, well, let's use this verb. By the time we're done, now we have a really clear sentence that explains in what way the brand must be that characteristic. And her role is to say, turn it black. Oh, yeah, that's it. Turn it black. She turned it black. I didn't turn it black. It's not my words. It's her words. It is so custom fit. It's like the best pair of shoes you've ever had. You want to go out and buy 100 more, but they don't sell them anymore. But it's like, that's what this is. It's not, it's as fun for them as it is for me. Like, you can tell I enjoy this. The moments of discovery, of self-discovery, of clarity, of the ability to attract, of somebody who's not a marketer at all. I have a man who runs a company called Compliance Specialists, Protecting You to Grow. Helps the smallest US companies, like one person up to 10 people, to make sure they are in compliance with the data security and privacy laws. There are internet criminals who, they don't care how big your computer is. They'll come in through your refrigerator if it's connected to the internet, and they'll get in your system and they'll wait until there's enough stuff in there they can steal and hold for ransom and make you pay.
Wreak havoc.
Exactly. And people think they're not vulnerable. Oh, I'm too small. Wrong-o, not too small. And this guy was not a marketer. But when we're taking copy that is drafted by some organization or by AI, and we're customizing it to make it the brand's language, he'll now correct me. Well, no, we hyphenate that. Oh, no, we always do it in caps. No, we say it. What a delight. Because consistency across the board is absolutely mandatory. And that's one of the things that goofs people up. They hire a third-party marketer to get them some leads, and now it becomes inconsistent. Well, we tried this and it didn't work. We called it this and we didn't work. 6 bad consequences: confusion, misinformation. You don't get credit for what you got some leads. Because you used a trick word. And you wore a superhero costume. We don't need to do this, Chris. Branding done right is by the steps. And when I taught this to big companies, they were surprised. They did. A lot of them were engineers or finance people, and they would when they got candid, they would say, I always thought branding was so much airy fairy bullshit. It's like, and
I changed my questions up a little bit. I was going to ask one before this, but I know that if somebody went to your website, they can get your blueprint, right?
Yeah, they can email me just rich@richbrands.org and say blueprint, and I'll send them an impact-driven branding blueprint that has the 7 steps in my language talking to you. Absolutely. And if they go to that website, richbrands.org, right at the top, homepage above the fold, you don't have to scroll at all. It's going to say, talk to Rich for 30 minutes. It's free. I've been doing this 48 years. People say to me, man, you should be on a beach or a yacht. And you know where I am, Chris? I'm on Zoom.
You're on Zoom.
I'm on Zoom, and they can be there. And I want to hear their challenges. I've been through it a zillion times. I will, in a few minutes, bring a lot of value to people if they just talk to me for 30 minutes.
I hear you. You own or part of impact-driven publishing. I want to talk about
I created a publishing company with a partner in New York who had 35 years of the publishing business. So when my clients are ready to do books, and many of them are, we define a book as a stake in the ground for the brand to move forward. We're a part of conceiving book titles, of writing titles and subtitles of chapters and content, and even helping write the books, so that they publish on impact-driven publishing. And we've had some really wonderful success stories. People that wouldn't have written a book before, and now they have.
Well, back in 2011, I dabbled in what I'm doing today, actually. It kind of full circle. But I don't think I was ready back then. But everybody kept saying you got to write a book. That's just part of the you write being an author. It raises your standards. That's still true today.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It increases your credibility
Yeah.
because you've taken the time to document things and your authority. If you're an author, a published author, if your book has reached any notoriety, if it's a #1 Amazon bestseller, or it's whatever, which sold so many copies, or it's used by certain people for certain things. Yeah, absolutely. You put yourself in the top. I don't know what percentage is. Let's say we used to say top 1%, but maybe it's the top 2%. Or a lot of people go for this, write a book in a weekend, don't do it, by the way. That's the same thing as, I would just get some leads. It's
Right.
marketing
Not the
before
same.
branding. It's marketing before branding. Do not make that mistake. Your marketing at its best will be the execution of an excellent branding strategy. So is it true today? Yes. And it can be searingly strategically right if the right book comes out first, and then the next book comes out, and then the next book comes out, or you do it in pieces. You could even do it, if books scare you, you could even do it as a blog series, because it's documenting your experience, your expertise, your opinion, if you're an opinion guy, your heart. And it's being consistent and regular. And those are things that people admire. They're leadership qualities, and it builds your credibility and your authority. But a book, yeah, absolutely. And check this out.
Mhm.
These are the kind of things that I have a client we just finished about 3 weeks ago, the manuscript for his second book on impact-driven publishing. His first book was called From Broke to Six Figures, Steps to Success in Business and Life. And the book was mostly about, I made these mistakes. Don't make these mistakes. Better way to do it. Here's how not to talk to people. Stop selling, all these things, right?
Mhm.
And his second book is called The Power to Live Your Life, 7 Things to Not Interrupt. So it's a bridge book that talks about, if we allow these 7 aspects of our lives, and human beings do, to be interrupted, we start sliding down the slippery slope. So be aware of the blind spot that is a blind spot. Here's what they are for 7 different things: your integrity, stewarding your savings future, all these 7 things. It's a brilliant book. It's really a good book. And his third book is about his purpose.
That's
So
another.
what he's known for, bridge book and purpose. It's like, he wasn't an author. Literally, he came into Brand Accelerator Mastery, this 8-week thing I do that gets all the work done for people. There's 3 days, a month break, 2 days, a month break, 2 days, 7 days over like 8 weeks. And it's all done. It blow your mind if you look at the results, the titles and subtitles of content that go out 3 or 4 years. It's and it's all, the brand is aligned and everything it says it does. It's so cool. And I used to do it here in my home, and
Mhm.
he was in that group. He came, and one day I said, so I've rewritten your elevator speech, and I came up with 3 book titles. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm not writing any books. And we joke about it to this day, a dear friend and still a client. And I said, no, let's not go on. A book is a stake in the ground that moves a brand forward. You don't technically have to write it. Somebody has to write it.
Mhm.
You could be a ghostwriter, as long as it captures you and it's your voice on paper, let's just keep ourselves open. And that's the way he did it. We drafted it, we conceived it, named the chapters, and we used a ghostwriter, interview him to
And
capture
then
his
put it
voice,
on
and
paper.
then
Yeah.
she wrote. He wasn't a writer. And we did the second book the same way. And I've been there for every word of that book. It's really a good book. And that's
Well,
the way it can be, man. I'm telling you.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, but I got to ask you one more question. So I love to smoke meat. I got a big smoker we built. I can do whole hogs and so forth.
Oh my goodness.
But I want to know what you cook for your specialty when you have guests over.
Wow. Well, this morning we did a breakfast, and the words are always healthy,
Mm-hmm.
organic,
Okay.
yummy. Those 3 words are always in the description. Okay, healthy, organic, yummy.
Now, when I smoke meat, that don't really come up. It's the top 3, but okay.
Well, it's what you do with the smoked meat that can.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
yeah. But yeah, it's part of the process. So if somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to come by and we're going to do our half day, and I'm coming to the Brand Ranch. What can I have for breakfast?" Well, I might make them a salmon cream cheese and caper omelet with homemade sweet potato fries on the side that have apples and cinnamon but they're sweet
Mhm.
potatoes, right? So it's health
Right.
food in coconut oil, not in butter, not in vegetable oil, ever, never vegetable. Coconut, right? Connects the synapses of the brain. That's why, you know, I put it in my coffee every morning because I gotta, keep those synapses going.
Right. Right.
And or Ezekiel toast, which is healthy, and organic yogurt with berries. So there's blueberries and raspberry. A guava smoothie. We have a guava tree, and so we freeze them when they harvest, and we have all these guava. And it's our signature drink. So we'll make a guava smoothie with a little bit of pineapple juice and some coconut water and a banana, and throw a little bit of yogurt in there and make your.
Hmm.
We had one this morning, guava smoothie. This person said, I don't do salmon. Can you do a veggie omelet? So we did fresh spinach leaves with
Yeah.
sliced tomatoes from the garden and feta cheese
Hmm.
in that omelet. It was really good. Okay, so that's breakfast. If you came
Yeah.
for dinner and it was going to be special, I would ask you what you like, but I love Northern Italian. So the last 2 dinners that I made Northern Italian, one was veal uh, piccata,
Hmm.
which is scallopini in flour and egg, and I use panko crumbs, and then flash fried in. Uh, uh, I use all coconut oil, and then covered with a butter caper sauce, and a side of pasta carbonara.
You're making me hungry.
It's not something we'll eat every day, but I
Eh,
love to make it, and because if we have guests, it gives me a reason.
There you go.
But I stick to the basics. So, uh, what is Craig? Craig, what's his name? It used to be New York Times. Craig Claiborne, New York Times 60-minute gourmet is my favorite cookbook in the whole world. So, some of the easiest recipes are the most elegant. Coquille Saint Jacques, if you
I,
like scallops.
I,
Um, um, Filet bordelaise, beautiful filet mignon in a wine. I'm just like, don't get me started. Those are the things I love to make that hit the plate. And then little tricks like not on a bed of rice or potatoes, but on a bed of something healthy like quinoa. And then the quinoa
mm,
has little chopped up multicolored carrots in it, purple, orange, white. It's like, well, that's nice. Yeah, and it's healthy too. So it's like, it's a trick. You think it's not healthy, but it is healthy.
well, Rich, thank you very much. I've enjoyed our time that we went from rock and roll to choir to real estate. We talked a lot of different things today.
It's been a
Cooking,
life.
writing a book. Yeah.
It's not over. I have 3 books ahead of me, just for me, and I got a lot of other books for clients. So it's wonderful. And I'd love to talk to you about your book. If you want to chat about that, talk to Rich for 30 minutes. richbrands.org. Just get on my calendar, calendly.com/richbrands, and talk about the possibilities. I'd love to do that with you.
So richbrand.org. And what was your email again? That way they can get the blueprint.
rich@richbrands.org.
Awesome.
So the website is richbrands.org, and my website and my email is just rich@richbrands.org. Easy blueprint. And talk to me. I would love to listen to you. I know I've been doing a lot of the talking here, but on those Zoom calls, I am a super listener, trained in NLP. I'll hear what your heart's not allowing your mouth to say, and we'll talk about possibilities for you. I would love to do that.
That's awesome. All right. As always, you can always find stuff from Rich and our guest link on the titanstale.com. And I can't forget to say that if you want to talk to me, you can go to Chris G or Chris Gelman, actually, on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. Thank you, Rich, for your time today. You have a good one.
Chris, this has been marvelous, and thanks for having me as your guest.